right, so let's get into this. To start off, I'll throw in some pictures of what the car looked like before because obviously I'm pretty far into a full teardown on the car. Currently, it's sitting on a custom made rotisserie. Just bought some really nice heavy duty engine stands from some local company that was offloading a bunch of them. And then made some custom tubing, some custom spindles, welded it all together, got the car up there sketchily, um, had some fun with it. I've rotated it 45 degrees both ways. I got holes drilled out for locking it in those positions. When I built it, I did not make myself any sort of adjustment for the height of the car, so I'm not sure currently where the center of gravity is, and if I start to rotate it to 90 without having a bunch of people here to help me, because I live pretty far away from all my friends, if I would run into any issues of the car wanting to just completely flip on its own. Um, so this car started life as a 1988 Alfa Romeo Milano 2.5 liter, so a platinum. Um, my dad bought it when I was about 16 years old. We had a GTV6 before that. Kind of got into it, and then eventually, long story short, was tearing it apart, trying to figure out electrical issues, and found out that the car was indeed two different cars. One was in a front end collision, one was in a rear end collision, and they cut it in half and merged the two. So while we were doing that, working on that car, happened to find a guy here in Minnesota that was moving overseas, couldn't take the car. My dad bought it for pretty cheap. He says it was $1,000. It was a running car, but I feel like I remember being there and it was about $4,000, $5,000. So I went off to the military, joined the Marine Corps, spent 4 years over in California. In that time, my dad had told me that he had sold the car, and then when I was back on leave one year, saw it sitting in his backyard. Nothing ever really came of it, and then it just kind of got shoved around to storage units. He used to rent a climate-controlled storage unit just for this car, even though he's got a bunch of cool cars, and then eventually he moved it into a big pole barn that he was renting with a bunch of his other cool projects. So it sat there for a few years on dirt, unfortunately, but it is what it is. About 2 years ago now, I want to say, he called me one day and he said, hey, if you want to buy this car, you got to buy it now. Gave me a price on it. Said I couldn't sell it if I did buy it from him for a long time at least. I agreed to it, and about 2 weekends later, drove up to where he was storing it, and we loaded up on a trailer, me and my daughter and him, and got it back down to my house and shoved it in my garage, and I still didn't believe I actually finally had the car in my possession for, I don't know, it took a long time. It took for me walking in the garage, smelling the old Italian leather, before I was like, yep, that's actually in there. The initial reason it got stored was my uncle took the car to Duluth one year. He was visiting, he doesn't live here. And on his way up there, he ended up, the water pump seized or something like that. And he ended up driving it for about 5 minutes like that. And it never really ran after that. Ran good. Couldn't really ever figure out what was going on. Seemed like something electrical, even though obvious symptom would be something that was related to overheating. So that's when I got shoved into storage, kind of backdating what I just told you. Got put into storage probably 2010-ish, 2011. Yeah, and then I didn't pull it out and try starting it up until 2023 range. Started life with that 2.5 liter over there, and then this one came out of the GTV6, and that one ended up getting put in there. Just had a little bit better everything going on. It wasn't leaking or anything like that. So once I finally got the car, and I knew I wanted to tear it down to some degree, didn't know how far I wanted to go with it at the time though. I was feeling under ambitious, over ambitious, a lot of mixed feelings about the situation, but I did want to try getting the engine running before tearing it down, just in case it was an electrical issue. I didn't want to tear it down, put the new motor in there, get it back in there, and have the same thing happen, and not know if it was something new that happened during the process of rebuilding or if it was already an existing symptom. I did end up eventually getting it running. It was really had a really rough idle, a little choppy, sounded like it was cammed, real heavy. Went through some stuff, and then eventually I finally did a compression test and found that I think cylinder 3 was pretty low. I don't remember what the specs were, but it was pretty far below the rest of them. It's right here on the shelf. And he had started doing a bunch of port work to the heads, but he only finished about 2/3 of one head and never did the other one, and I am nowhere near skilled enough to complete them, so I was trying to find somebody that could finish them for me, but a lot of people are scared to touch it, and or just really hard to find anybody to do anything right now. Then one day, miraculously, I was scrolling through Alfa BB, and I found somebody locally in Minnesota anyways, that was about 4 hours away, that happened to have a bunch of Alfa and Milano and GTV6 parts floating around. And one of the things he happened to have was a brand new, if you want to call it that, refurbished set of 3.0 heads. So, not believing my luck, I made an offer on him, really cheap, and he accepted it, and I went up there and bought them the next day. That's not the only thing I got from. So speaking of plans, what I want to do, really what I'm looking for, some people might not agree with it, some people will think it's cool, just depends on your perspective. I really want to build a show car quality track car that, unfortunately, I don't know if I'll ever actually want to take on a track. Maybe besides some like fun little track days, I'll never really want to compete with it. It's too special of a car to me. It's been in my family too long. We're in the United States. There's not a ton of them, especially not in good condition. And as I'm finding out, parts are coming harder and harder to come by, getting harder and harder to come by. So doing something silly and hitting a wall or something might be the end of the car. So I don't really want to go that route. But I do want a really cool car that's winning shows that I can take places, have fun with. So far, let me open my garage up and get some better light in here. So here we are as of today. I did a bunch of actual filming today finally of work in progress. I completely got the engine bay stripped out. Finally bit the bullet. I'm still a little concerned about what I did, but I did strip back a lot of the wire harnesses that fed through, and I cut them long, but I cut all the harnesses off, as you can see, on the ground over there, on the ground over here. Lots of plans for that. I want to do bulkhead connectors with quick connects on maybe both sides, maybe just one side, figure out how I want to route everything. I really want to go for a simple engine bay, not going completely crazy at this point with like 100% tuck in here. I'm not really planning on spot welding and filling holes and all that stuff, but I do plan on fully stripping down the engine bay, painting it, cleaning it up, taking off some of the brackets that I know I won't need anymore, including removing the battery tray because I'll relocate that to the trunk most likely. Yeah, so here's as of today. Super excited with how everything turned out so far. I've been watching a lot of videos on people doing tucks on like their E30s and stuff from the same generation, so like 87s and all that, and they're buying plate kits from companies and welding them in, and then plug filling a lot of holes, plug weld filling. Luckily for me, this engine bay actually so far seems much simpler. There isn't a lot of seam sealer. I did find some up here today. Let's see here. Yeah, but literally that's it. There's none coming down any of the bracing anywhere. There's none anywhere except for up there. So super excited about not having to spend a ton of time dealing with that. And on top of it, I don't even know if I consider it seam sealer because it scrapes off really easy with a flat blade. Just been using like a window scraper type blade and taking care of it that way. Today I finally got, like I said, all the harnesses off. I was able to get the brake booster assembly out. I do plan on going with Chase Bay's brake booster delete kit. I'm trying to figure out how to manage all that with my stock pedal assembly. I don't know if that's going to be possible because it's built into the brake booster. So, and that's why there's a giant hole right there. So I'll probably end up designing in CAD a plate that goes over that nice looking plate that'll fill in on those bolt holes, and then I can adapt what I need to that. Was finally able to get the rest of this heat shield material off. I tried power washing it a few times, couldn't get it, and then today, as you'll see in some of the other footage, I was trying to heat up some of the rubber boots that were feeding through for the wire harnesses, and in that process I discovered that it heated up that material real nice and it basically just fell off. So after I was done with all the wires and the brake booster stuff, I took a torch to it, heated everything up real nicely and scraped everything off. It's still sticky, I still gotta clean it up, but overall it's good in there. Pretty clean all around. Fairly lucky that it's not rusty anywhere in here. There's some rust around like the fenders, just the normal spots, and then I did discover recently that the spare tire wheel, in the trunk is starting to rot on top, so I might just chop that whole thing off. I was kind of thinking about doing a fuel cell inside of there, because I did find some kits that are meant for that purpose. I did purchase a full big brake and suspension upgrade kit from ML Developments over in Sweden from Dennis Smolberg. He's a super cool guy. I met him, well, I haven't physically met him, but I met him a few years ago through Facebook. Was always really interested in his products and saved up for a long time and spent about $6,000-7,000 on a full front end conversion kit, taking away the sway bar, or not the sway bars, the torsion bars, a full upgrade on suspension and control arms, all that stuff. Lower, upper control arms, so everything will be brand new. And then for the rear end with that kit, it's mainly just the shocks. So nothing crazy in the back yet, but I do have the full Dion setup torn apart, and I am working on getting that torn down all the way, trying to get the wheel bearings out right now, which is proving to be extremely difficult. So I can get it powder coated, and then transmission I do believe is fine, and or I'm not tearing into it at this point because I know it was driving fine last time it was driven, I guess. So I will be basically trying to dry ice blast, eggshell blast, whatever I can do, all the components, and just assembling brand new but not internally. Here is what that's looking like so far. I'll obviously get a new clutch and all the external components to the transmission. I got new disc brakes, new pads, everything. My garage is an absolute disaster right now, so bear with me. But eventually I'll pull out most of these components. I'll kind of see if I can give you a little bit of a teaser. Here's a spindle for one of the sides, I'm not sure, left, right, up, down, one of those. I did pick up a flywheel from Richard Melvin over in the UK for the car, as the stock 3.0 one is cracked on the spindle, so I needed to buy one and happened to come across his for pretty good deals, about $900, probably like around $1,000 after shipping and all that fun stuff. But this bad boy weighs around 7 pounds, I believe it was, and the stock one was also around 23 pounds. So that's a massive weight reduction. Super excited about that. Had some people not complain, but tell me I'm going to hate it, and blah, blah, blah. but it's not my daily driver. I'll drive it on the streets, but I don't plan on dealing with it every day, so I'm fine with it. I want it to be as cool as I can, even if it's a pain in the butt to drive. Today I am going to try 3D scanning the engine bay so I can work on some fun stuff that I wanted to do. One of the things with doing the suspension and getting rid of the torsion bars is I wanted to see if I can make some sort of engine brace to tie off from here. If you know, on the 2.5 3 liters, you cannot go from strut to strut. It's virtually impossible with how the engine sits in there. It's not like the 2 liters. So what I would like to do is go from here, come up, and tie into that shroud, whatever you want to call this cowl above the firewall. See if I could structurally support it with bolts through here all the way across, and then come back down and tie back in. I'm not an engineer of racing. I am an engineer, but not that kind of engineer. So not sure structurally how beneficial that is yet, but if it's something I can do and it does turn out to be something that works out well, I will do that. I'm also looking at bracing from around here. I don't know what they call it, but the triangle braces that people do, especially when they get rid of torsion bars, because these cars were not meant for the suspension setup that I'm going through, as I've kind of read online. I don't know if I'd ever actually have any issues with it because I'm not full-blown racing it, but I will see what I can do to appease the people. So yeah, that'll probably be it for now. There's tons of information. I'm just talking blah blah blah. Super excited though. I'll see you on the next one.